'cause it rocks!
I'm Dee Snider, and I want to rock! Yeah! Not bad. Not bad. I hope your English is good, because the only Swedish I know is from the Muppets, and I'm pretty sure it's not fucking Swedish, so I'm just guessing. Yeah, I'm glad, thank you for having me move over. I thought for the first time in my career I was going to have to say sit down to an audience, which I've never done before. And they did offer me one of those cool headsets, but since I'm not Lady Gaga, I started to kick it old school, work the mic, Mr. Hip Hop. At least you could do is grab your dick or something, Hey, how you doing? So this is the first time I'm doing something like this. I mean, and if any of you have ever seen me in concert, yeah, I do talk to an audience, but it usually leads to something like, "This one's called," but there's nobody back here tonight. So if I accidentally say "this one's called" and turn around, it's just a weird Twisted Sister flashback. So please bear with me. I did write a book, Dee Snider's, yes, Shut Up and Give Me the Mic. And unlike a lot of other rock books that are out there, I wrote this one myself, every single word. And he laughed, but that's really the facts. Books you're seeing out there, 99% of them are not written by the actual artist. The reasons for that being mostly that they were so fucked up in the 80s, they can't really remember anything. And so, and it's true. I mean, when you see a book that's all about doing heroin, has anybody ever hung out with a heroin addict? Okay, I have. I lived with one. I never saw him write anything down. He couldn't find his dick, let alone a pencil. Okay, so I got to take notes on this. I'm really fucked up. So when I write my book later on, I remember it. But I wrote this one myself. Oh, I just want to point out that due to poor management, I had like 1 hour sleep last night flying from the States. So I've never done drugs before, but I'm thinking of starting now. Who's got some cocaine? Anything that'll lift me a little bit, because I don't feel like I have any legs. Shut Up and Give Me the Mic is very different because as opposed to all the sex, drugs, and rock and roll books out there, which there are a gazillion of them, and I figured I'd do something a little different, and I'd write a book about my road to success and ultimately to failure. And because I just figured that people might be interested in hearing that story, because one of the things I learned in the 80s very quickly is that my story was not very much different than yours. The songs I wrote and the videos that I wrote, and I wrote all the songs and the videos that you saw and you remember, were my story about my road to being a rock star. And I would have found out when the video came out that everybody all over the world connected with what was going on in my house, that dad yelling at me, and my dad yelling at me. Everybody identified. And here I thought I was the only one. And the lyrics were "We're not going to take it," which was, my message to the world that I'm going to succeed and I'm going to become a rock star. Everybody connected with, and maybe you didn't want to be a rock star, but somehow it's the same words spoke to you. So I figured that when writing my book, I wanted to tell people my story and share that insight with them and really sort of connect with everybody, the commonality that we have and the things that we go through. And in Shut Up and Give Me the Mic, you will find out that, I decided at a very young age, 9, that I would be a rock star. And I pursued that dream and did not have real major success until 1984. So it was a long, long time and a long road. And then once I got there, like so many people before me, and without the influence of drugs or alcohol, I proceeded to destroy my career and lose everything. And by 1992, I was flat broke, not a penny left. The band had broken up. Grunge had shown up, and grunge was like the cure for hair metal. It's like they figured out, okay, like it was a disease. And imagine, and this is how I felt as a hair metal rocker. I spent my life like perfecting a stance, a style, an attitude, a voice, everything, the way I wrote, the way I looked, the way, and then grunge came along and they said, yeah, we're not doing that anymore. What do you mean you're not doing that anymore? That's all I fucking know how to do. And in '92, I woke up one day, like I said, penniless, married, 3 kids, and it's like, well, what now? And Shut Up and Give Me the Mic goes back to that, to me, sort of, it really sort of takes you to that point of ultimate failure. And since '92, I've reinvented myself, and I use the same things that I did to succeed as a rock star, I reapplied to life after being a rock star. And while outside of the United States, I'm still primarily known as a rock star and Twisted Sister, and we do festivals and play, and it's great, and it's fun. It's a hobby now. In the States, I'm way more of a celebrity. I've been doing, since '92, I've developed a career in radio, and I've done morning talk radio, nighttime radio. I've had a syndicated radio show on for 15 years. It's on over 200 markets in North America. I do voiceover work. I'm an announcer, documentaries. I was even the voice of a major news network for a while, and that was a weird audition. So I get the audition, they hire me, and now my agent, they didn't see me. They heard my voice, and they said, we want that guy. And they said, yeah, that's got to let you know it's Dee Snider from Twisted Sister. So, you know, because, so imagine their surprise. I've written movies, I've written television shows, I've hosted television shows. In the States, I'm a reality show guy. I've been on so many. My wife stayed at Flavor Flav's house for a week on Celebrity Wife Swap, and I've hung out in Donald Trump's boardroom 2 seasons now. And so I've become this different kind of celebrity, which is really weird because now a lot of Asians recognize me, and they never did before. Not that there's anything wrong with that; they just really weren't the Twisted Sister. And so I've been on Broadway. I did a run in a show called Rock of Ages. If you've seen the movie, that's not the Broadway show. Tom Cruise fucked it up. All right. What a dick. I just digress for a second. So I'm on Broadway. We're doing the show. Big news. They're going to make a movie out of it. Even bigger news, Tom Cruise is going to play the role of Stacey Jacks, the funniest role in the show. And he's a character. He's a caricature of every 80s hair metal lead singer. So they come in and say, Tom Cruise is playing a role. And he came in audition today, sang Wanted, Dead or Alive. I said, how do you sing? They said, you know, okay. I said, is that the fucking bar now for movies? The guy's a movie star, he sings okay. So, but anyway, so I did that for a long time. I mean, I've done so many things over there. I just got finished. I wrote a Broadway show, which we were just presenting to investors and theater owners this past week, called A Very Twisted Christmas. And so I do all these other things, and they all... the same things that I did, the same rules that I learned to apply through my life to make it in rock and roll, I wound up reapplying to these new careers for myself. And I know I'm leaving a few of them out, but that doesn't matter. The point is, and I said, well, here's, you know, people wanted me to speak without the band, and what could I tell you guys that you would connect with? Well, you've already, most of you, except him, connected with my music and connected with the videos, and somehow have you know, you understand where I'm coming from just through those things. You know, Twisted never sang songs. It wasn't the usual sex, drugs, and rock and roll stuff. It was about believing in yourself and standing up for yourself and fighting for what you believe in. And it was reflected in everything we do, and the attitude. All right, not so much the makeup, but the attitude and the videos and the songs it did. So, in my book, and now I have to go to the paper that I have somewhere in my person right here, and there it is, just so I can reference the things. In my book, as I went along, I just found myself saying, "Oh, well, there was a life lesson," and I'd write down, you know, the life lesson. And as I went through the book, suddenly I had accumulated quite a list of life lessons that I learned through all the things that I've been through, the ups and downs my career has been through. And so I thought I wouldn't bore you with all of them, just a few today. I'd bring a few of them. And particularly, one thing has come to mind. You know, I'm a rock star. You're a rock star. Coolest thing in the world to be called. I wanted to be a rock star my whole life. You're a rock star. And I went and I looked up the definition of rock star, and sure enough, it means a singer or musician, a famous singer or musician who plays rock and roll. So basically, if you perform rock and roll and you become famous or infamous for doing it, you're a rock star. Well, if that's the case, why do I hear everybody being called a rock star these days? Everybody's a rock star. He's a rock star. She's a rock star. Man, you're a rock star. You know, and that's cool. And even in classified ads, the want ads for jobs, wanted, IT rock star to head up department. Rockstar marketing man for new project. Everything's rockstar, rockstar, rockstar. Hell, you could be a rockstar mom. And that's because being a rock star isn't about playing in a band anymore. And that's okay. Being a rock star, it's an attitude, it's a way of thinking, and it's a level of success. If you achieve things at a certain level, you become a rock star because you're doing it well. And I figured, since I am a rock star, and arguably I've done certain things well, I would share some of the things that I learned, going to my list, okay? I already talked through half of this, so don't worry about it. You're not going to get beat up. And these are my DEE life lessons. All right, one of the first ones that I ever learned. When I was in high school, I was falling into, and we're all well out of high school, but you'll know what I'm talking about. I was falling into that life sucks, fuck my life mentality that you kind of get when you're 16 and 17 years old. And I felt it was fighting what I was trying to do. I was trying to achieve. I want to be a rock star. I want to be successful, yet everything blows when I was 16. Everything sucks. So one day I said, you know what? I'm changing this, and I'm creating this thing called PMA, Positive Mental Attitude. And I said, I'm just going to believe that everything's great, and it'll become a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you believe it, it will become. And let me tell you, not a popular guy. Oh, sure, everybody in high school remembers me now. They all hung out with me. Nobody hung out with me. I was that weird fucking dude with the big hair. I was a guy people crossed the street not to be near, you know. But I just started, everything. People would see me. How's it going? Great. From that point, what are you going to be when you grow up? What are you going to be when you grow up? I'm going to be a rock star, which people thought was very funny. When you're a teenager, you say, I want to be a rock star. People ridicule you, they make fun of you. And to me, it was just this positive reinforcement. Even my own father, who many of you saw exemplified in the We're Not Going to Take It video, he was the asshole I threw out the window. He used to make fun of me all the time, go, oh, PMA, PMA, D, PMA, positive mental attitude. Always when things were at their worst, positive mental attitude. But he don't say that no more, because I kick ass, and I've been successful, and now he says, wow, PMA, D, PMA. So positive mental attitude is something that it's not about being a rock star, it's about anything you do. It's about banning negative thoughts and phraseology from our minds and from our world. We are filled with negative reinforcement day in and day out. Things like, oh, it's one of those days. People say that all the time. You know, oh, it's one of those days. I got up this morning, warm plugged in, and go, it's one of those days. Setting in their mind that the day is fucked. The day is over. Might as well just give the fuck up because it's one of those days and nothing's ever going to go right. Wrong. That's the kind of stuff you got to get out of your head. Well, there's a phrase, there's a saying in the States called Murphy's Law. And Murphy's Law is just that, you know, I think it's basically what can possibly go wrong will go wrong. Well, if that's the way you're going to believe, nothing's going to go fucking right. If you're going to approach everything thinking that it's going to suck and be fucked up, I guarantee you it ultimately will. So I just set into motion this positive reinforcement within myself that I absolutely am convinced that I just talked myself into becoming successful because people just had to listen to me because I wasn't going to take no for an answer. I would succeed whether they liked it or not, and trust me, a lot of them didn't like it. 2, lose your safety net. Going back to high school, I told you from 9 years old, I was in bands. I want to be a rock star. I'm going to be a rock star. I'm going to be a rock star. And I allowed my parents, when I graduated, to talk me into going to college. Now, this is an anti-college rant. This is an anti-safety net rant. So I said, they said, well, just in case it doesn't happen, go to school so you have a backup. Well, what I found is when I went to school, I started practicing with the band less and rehearsing less. The safety net that I saw below me that I knew would break my fall, I started to depend on and figure, well, that wouldn't be such a bad thing if I fell from here. And when I finally realized after the first year of college that if you have a safety net below you, you're not going to try as hard, I removed the safety net by dropping out of school and getting a shitty job, just working on a loading dock kind of thing you didn't want to ever settle into. And my thing is that get rid of your safety nets. Make failure epic. Make failure the end of your existence as you know it. Make it that the only way to go is that way, otherwise you're going to die. And when it's that desperate, when it's that significant, you will work that much harder to succeed at what you do. Dee speaks. All right. 3, a band is only as good as its weakest link. Now, in my world, at one point, I was the weakest link. I used to play guitar and sing. I sucked on guitar. Very animated, but I can't play for shit. And I discovered quickly that my bands suffered because of it, because if I sucked, how good could the band possibly be? I sang a lot better than I could play guitar. And I quickly realized that if I'd be in a much better band if I would just stop playing guitar, lose the ego, which turned out to be a good thing too, because singers don't have to move gear around. It's awesome. Anyway. So I removed myself from being the weakest link. But then what happened is the next weakest link showed up, and that was our drummer. And realized that as long as he was in the band, we would not be able to go the distance. We would go the next level. And we had to get rid of the next weakest link. And I'm not telling people to be cutthroat and be scumbags. You do it you do it the nicest way you have to. But realize on any team of people, and you work with teams, your team will only be as good as its weakest link. So if you're the weakest link, fix it before they fire you. And if somebody else is the weakest link, either bolster them up, change them out, whatever it takes. Just know, with that weak link in there, it's going to limit your degree of success. 3. 4. Oh, this is one of my favorites. Bullshit beats talent. But talent and bullshit beats bullshit. All right, so, not to name any names, but there was a guy in my band, or should I say was? He still is. Anyway, and here I was, the guy writing all the songs, and this is before you came to know me. This is when we were starting out. Writing all the songs, creating all the ideas, everything was coming from my head, and I would lay back and was sure that my brilliance, my talent would be recognized. And this other member of the band, who doesn't really have a lot of talent, is great at bullshit. And he's taught a great game. And he never took credit for my work, although many people will do that. But because he was so out in front, and because he was so outspoken, and because he was so engaging, everybody assumed this was his. Because I wasn't speaking up, they're going to recognize me back here because I'm a genius. But he was just talking a great game, and everybody thought it was his band, his songs, his ideas. And one day somebody referred to him as my boss. And that was the day I said, this has got to stop. And the only way I figured out, how do you beat bullshit? Obviously, talent's not working. So I learned to bullshit. And I bullshit really well. I'm doing a lot of it right now. I've become a good bullshitter. But the fact is, it wasn't bullshit because they were my songs and they were my ideas, and I was just representing what I did and not allowing other people to misrepresent or take the credit for what I do. And I know that goes on in every freaking job in the world, okay? I mean, that equation didn't just come from my experience with the band. That equation came from my grandfather, 85 years old, sitting at dinner with me, talking about working in a factory, busting his ass his whole life, and having other people taking credit for his work because he's a quiet guy, he was a good guy, and he didn't want, he figured he'd be, no, he told me, don't let this happen to you. And it did happen to me, but then I fixed it. So, if you got the talent, if you got the chops, learn how to bullshit so that nobody else steals your shit, and also you get recognized for the work you do, okay? And later on, they're doing tattoos. Bullshit and talent beats bullshit outside, so it's for free. You can get a tramp stamp if you want, ladies. Bullshit and talent beats. Something for the gentleman to see. All right. Now, 5, my last one. And again, I mean, I had writing a book, and by the way, I'd never written a book before. They didn't want to let me write my book because just because you sing in a band doesn't mean you should be able to write a book, and I understand that, or just doesn't, because you can't assume a writer can sing. But I said, look, I'd written screenplays, I'd written sitcoms, and I'd never written prose, as they say. I said, let me just write a little bit. I wrote a couple chapters. They loved my writing. They said, go write the book. You got a great voice. And I did. So after a few months of writing, I called them. I said, how many words do you want? They said, 70 to 90,000. I said, well, I'm at 150 and I'm only halfway through. So I wrote 250,000 words, which I let them edit because I said, look, I don't know what's important and what's me blowing smoke up my own ass. Okay, so I said, so they edited it down. But there's a lot more information, a lot more life lessons. I just pulled a few out. This one is, you don't need to be king of the world, just king of your world, for now. Because like any good king, once you're king, then you want to take over the neighboring fiefdom. This lesson was learned in Sweden, of all places. I was, in 1983, Twisted Sister had its first hit record, You Can't Stop Rock and Roll, in England, in the UK. It wasn't big anywhere else, but we blew up in the UK and top 20 singles and on top of the Pops, the big TV show back then, touring. It was great. Which led to our next album, Stay Hungry. And Stay Hungry was the one that sold 10 million copies internationally, and it just changed our lives and our world. Interestingly, the one country that did not get into Stay Hungry was England. The one country where Stay Hungry was viewed as a failure. So I was doing a promotional tour in Europe, and I was traveling all over Europe, and it was just great, going from one country to the other, being treated like a rock god, as well I should, and on a Thursday, I am in Sweden. And as a matter of fact, it's the same week they're having the Nobel Peace Awards thing going on, and I'm in the fucking presidential suite, not those other losers. Okay, I'm like, this is awesome. I mean, limo to and from, the best of everything. This suite was fantastic, right in Stockholm. And it's just unbelievable experience. The height of our popularity. And I remember signing, this is what sticks in my mind, I remember signing albums for people. The records, we got requests for autographs. I was signing them to the royal family. They were kids then. I'm signing to the Volvo kids. And I remember I was signing one to, oh man, I'm forgetting his fucking name, and I just blew it. I just blew it, the tennis guy. Bjorn Borg, right. And they said the first name only. So I said, Bjorn, and I go, Borg, and I go, Borg, and they go, yeah. And I said, what? And they said, yeah. I said, yeah, what? They go, this one's for Beyond Borg. I go, are you fucking kidding me? I mean, this is the, you know, I mean, to have royalty, to have the kings of industry and your most famous tennis player and the most famous Beyond in the world signing autographs from. This is a Thursday. Friday morning, I fly to the UK, to which I walk into a shitty little hotel. I take a taxi to a shitty little hotel and proceed to sit into interview after interview of how my career's over, this record's a failure, how does it feel to have the... And I finished this day of misery, and I'm sitting in this shitty hotel, and the record company goes, all right, you got the whole weekend to yourself. So I picked up the phone and I said, they got anything else for me to do in Sweden? First class, back to Sweden, limousine, back to the presidential suite. Yes! Because krona is money too, okay? And so the point is, I want to be where I'm the fucking king. And if I'm not the king in England, I'm going to be the king in Sweden. So in your world, translating this to your world, don't worry about taking over the planet. Don't worry about being Bill Gates yet. Worry about ruling right here, right where you are, this place. And like I said, once you're king there, all good kings start eyeing the next kingdom to take over. And that's when you move on to the next place. But right now, this is the place you want to have control on control. And you know, you want to be a good king, but you want to be the king, all right? Now, assuming that you're all going to be huge successes, assuming you're all going to just be kings, I have one last bit of wisdom to share with you. At some point, somebody is going to offer you a lot of money to do something that compromises your integrity. No, not have sex. I'm talking about real whoredom, okay? They're going to come to you and say, we will give you this for your integrity. Happened to me one day. I get a phone call. Dee, we have a commercial used for We're Not Going to Take It. Awesome. Licensing is the best thing in the world for old school rockers. You don't get much radio airplay, but those licenses are crazy good. You make crazy money off of them. Too late, you didn't start. All right, but I said, great. I said, what's the commercial? They said, it's a women's feminine product. I said, what? He says, yeah, it's for premenopausal women and some of their... I'm like, are you fucking kidding me, man? This is the absolute truth, too. That's why I'm laughing. I said, are you fucking kidding me? And my brain's racing because this is a six-figure deal. And at this point, I've got 2 of my 4 kids are in college, and I really could use this check. But this is my song. I've only got 2 of them, real big ones. And I said, I'm just grabbing at straws. And I said, well, what does it do? And he goes, well, the main thing is it stops vaginal dryness. Oh, well, I'm against vaginal dryness. And I'm pretty sure everybody's against vaginal. I think the world is against vaginal. Who here is against vaginal dryness? Hands, show of hands, please. Thank you. Oh, you're not against. You will be in a few years, honey. I'm fine now. Yeah, 10 years from now, you're going to be like the fucking Sahara. I'm doing God's work. Don't look down at me. Or up, or whatever. So my last bit of sage advice to you is when you get that offer to compromise your integrity for a lot of money, search for your vaginal dryness in the deal. See if you can find something that can make you feel okay about it and fucking sell your soul.
the world's most dangerous meeting. It's happening again next year, May 27th. You want to be there? Because it rocks!